Hi and welcome to my channel. I'm Mark on RC 74. In today's video it's finally time for the maiden flight for my RC Scrappy build. I'm really excited about the first flight. During the whole footage I will guide you with some words through the flight and through the preparation, then through the follow-up of the maiden flight. So enough talking, let's jump right onto the flying field and let's do this maiden flight with RC Scrappy. Assembling RC Scrappy on the flying field was pretty easy. It's just like the standard carbon cup. You just have to connect the wings to the fuselage and the wing rods to the fuselage. And there's only one exception, which is one step more. I have to connect the cables for the position lights, and then RC Scrappy is good to go. After the assembling, I did some rudder checks, also for the double slotted flaps, the slats and drooping ailerons, and for sure elevator and rudder. But everything looked good, everything was smooth. So next step was to go for taxiing RC Scrappy. This is a bit special because the tail wheel is not driven by the rudder servo. So it just moves with using a massive rudder angle and the thrust which is produced by the propeller. So at the beginning I had some issues. I had to feel how this exactly works, how much throttle I had to give to control RC Scrappy well on the flying field. At the beginning it was a bit tricky, but at the end it felt really good. Taxiing RC Scrappy is really fun because you can throw around that tail and that looks really scale, and all the lag you have with your tail, that feels really super scale and is a lot of fun too. So I'm really happy about the solution I made, and I tried to go for the scale look or the scale function of the whole tail, and I really don't regret the solution I made. And taxiing is really fun with RC Scrappy. Then I also had to do a range test. This is very important for this plane. It's very important anyway for any plane, but especially on this one because there are a lot of carbon fiber parts, the belly, the whole cowling, and some additional parts on the wings. And I really had to check if there are any issues with range when the carbon fiber parts face into my direction. So, but everything looked good. I had a range of around 60 meters. For Futaba range test, 35 meters is what you should have at least, and it was about 60 meters, so everything looked good. After all the testing, it was time for takeoff. Takeoff was pretty okay. I had a little crosswind during the whole flight down from the valley. So yeah, RC Scrappy is not controlled by a gyro. So everything is manually flight, no support from a gyro. So some moves you can see during the flight are just because of some wind. You can also hear it on the microphone. But I prefer to fly all my RC planes fully manual. I never use gyros, just to have the full control. It's just my personal feeling that I prefer using no gyros. Especially for RC Scrappy, I try to avoid every gram of weight. So also in case of the weight, it was important for me to not put in gyro, which adds some weight too. During the test flight, I felt pretty quick that RC Scrappy is a bit tail heavy. It wasn't a big deal, but it just felt a little too aggressive on rudder and elevator. Perhaps you can see it on some moves during the flight that it's not absolutely smooth. So I really have to go forward a little bit with a CG. And because of the lack of power, what I realized pretty quickly too is the stock motor is totally overloaded with the weight of RC Scrappy. RC Scrappy currently weighs around 5.5 kilograms. Stock weight is around 4.5 kilograms. depends on the battery you use, but I use the smallest one which is recommended. This is a 6S 4000 milliamp hour battery, so I really have to go forward with the CG, and the motor I'm gonna use in the future will be for sure a bit heavier too, and I think like this I can also manage to get the CG a bit forward and solve the slightly tail heavy situation I had on the maiden flight. Except of this, the maiden flight went pretty good, all was okay, during mid-air no issues. Then it was time for the landing, and the landing went well too. Also had some crosswind, that was the reason for the last moment move it does on roll, but was everything okay. And yeah, RC Scrappy was healthy back on the ground, and then I taxied it back. And when I stopped RC Scrappy, I realized that the motor, the propeller, doesn't spin free. So it stopped pretty quick, which is not usual, which is not normal. And after checking, I realized that the motor was that hot that all the glued magnets and all the stuff came loose and moved a bit to the back in the motor housing and touched the static part of the motor housing. So that made some bad noises and for sure reduced power, and the overheating of the motor for sure also reduced the power of the static magnets. So I will sure change the motor. I checked for another stronger motor which fits RC Scrappy too, and I found a Dualsky motor which has over 2000 watts and pulls around 6.5 kilograms, 6.4, 6.5 kilograms with the 4-plate Draco prop, so the same prop I used on the maiden flight. So I'm pretty sure that all the lack of power issues will be solved with this new motor, and I'm really looking forward to more flights and more flight footage with RC Scrappy. So this was it of the very first flight of RC Scrappy. I'm really happy that the plane is still in one piece. I brought it down absolutely safely. There are still some small modifications. The biggest one is about the motor. So the lack of power was really massive, so I really hope to get a nice power weight ratio with the new motor. We'll see, and soon more test flights will follow. I also hope to test as soon as possible all the slat functions to see how slow RC Scrappy is really capable to fly, and more stuff to test. Blue hour flights with lights on and more will come. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for following along. See you in the next one. Happy flying. Bye bye.